Hello folks, welcome back to our live stream. My name's Millie. I'm still joined by Kate. She's still here, UK Games Expo
Hello.
Marketing Manager. And we've had a change of face. It's Ross, Community Manager from Alley Cat Games. How you doing, Ross?
I'm wonderful, thank you very much. How are you two? Because you two are just in the zone right now, the streaming zone.
I'm good. I've got a nice cup of coffee in my motivational mug, and I'm all good now.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I'm on the decaf in my giant hobbit-sized mug.
Got water.
Sadly.
Got water for me.
Yes, yeah, it
responsible.
seems reasonable.
So you're not neither Alley Cat nor Ross are new faces on this channel. Up before Virtually Expo, we had a chat with Cesar from Alley Cat about your plans for Virtually Expo and things we were going to be doing over that weekend and just in general. And then yourself, because you also have your own stream. We had a chat with you about more games, please, didn't we?
I wear many hats. Yeah.
You wear them well.
Hats.
Yeah, but today we're gonna have a chat about some of the things that Alley Cat have been up to and some plans you've got going forwards. So just very briefly, how was Virtually Expo?
Yeah, so Virtually Expo was great. Like many people, we were kind of learning as we went. There was new technology to get our heads around, but from my perspective, I thought there was some really valuable lessons in one, the difference between a physical convention and a digital convention, and how and what people want from one versus the other. So from our perspective, what we learned is that we wanted to offer more digital demos, and as well as do a show and tell via our streams, also give the ability for people to come to us and then get involved in a more hands-on way. And I think with any new thing, there's going to be lessons. And from my perspective, I always like learning things, whether that's we've done something and it wasn't quite as good as we'd hoped. You can grow from that. So I thought it was really valuable to learn. And one thing I want to take away from Virtually Expo is the idea that we can offer these digital demos more regularly throughout the year, because now we've built the skills internally to be able to do a digital convention. That's knowledge that we can use from here on out. And I personally thought what Virtually Expo showed us is how many people were excited and interested in that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
We were. I mean, that was one of the things for the Virtually Expo. We were extremely surprised. We'd hoped to get 5,000 people across the weekend, maybe, because instead of the usual, we had hoped for 30,000 at the physical show, the Uniques this year, and we got like 15,000. We can definitely say 15,000. We think it's more like 25,000 in the first half hour, which represented 1.8 million hits and requests to the website, which is why we had a slight stutter at the start, and then we strapped on a whole pile more servers, and then it was swimming. That was fine. It was okay. But you're right. We weren't expecting the level of interest and stuff, and it's lovely and heartening to see that people are very, very keen still, even in a virtual reality kind of thing. We would like to run a physical show, so everyone who came there, come to the show, come to the physical show. That's the thing.
As someone who has attended many physical UK Games Expos, I love the physical expo. I enjoyed the Virtually Expo, but it's really nice to just be with other humans being like, this is cool, right? So
absolutely, yes.
I'm sure all of us are chomping at the bit to be able to experience that kind of thing again.
Definitely, absolutely, and I'm looking forward to next summer.
Yes.
Speaking of seeing people in the flesh, there has been folks might have spotted on the social media. I definitely saw it in some of the board game groups on Facebooks. Some wonderful pictures of games arriving, because the folks at Alley Cat, after a bit of you sort of took some time to isolate, and then you all headed down to pack everything.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, this may be obvious to some people, but I don't think it's obvious to everyone. When you're a relatively small publisher, and as though like a lot of people might know our games, as a team, we're a small team. So there's 4 people who work at Alley Cat Games that are on the books. Basically, we work with a lot of other designers and artists and illustrators, but we're talking like permanent staff. There's only four people in the team. So when it comes to fulfillment, when it comes to shipping those games to all of our backers, we do that ourselves, because to pay another company to do that is a big expense for a small company to take on. So when possible, and this is how we've operated up until this point, you know, if we continue to grow as a company, then maybe that's something we'll review. But up until this point, you know, a large proportion of fulfillment of shipping those games, the games that people have backed on Kickstarter, we do that. So we're the people that are putting those, we're the people that have ran the Kickstarters, designed the games, developed the games, made those games happen. But we're also the people putting them in boxes and putting packing material in and getting it all stickered and labeled in bags and shipped via roll mail or whoever to wherever it needs to go. So last week, as a team, we were in a warehouse. This is just for UK and Europe orders, American orders, and Asia and Australia and New Zealand orders. They're getting done in the regions. But you know, we personally, as 4 people, over 6,000 games passed through our hands to get, you know, sorted out, boxed and shipped out in a week.
Wow.
So it was safe to say there was some achy backs by the end of the week, because there's just a lot. That's just a lot of games.
That is a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I
was just going to say that I don't think a lot of people realize that
how
when
much work is
when
involved.
they ask, like, oh hey, you know, have you got any?
Yeah.
Like whilst we were doing fulfillment, people were emailing saying, oh hey, can you give me an update and this, that, and the other. I don't think they realize it's the whole team that's doing
Yeah.
it. So there'll be a little bit of a delay between us physically putting your game in a box and emailing you back about it. You'll have to bear with us a little while, but I'm back in the office, home basically now, and catching up and all that kind of stuff. But last week it was, you know, all hands on deck, trying to get everything done in that week, which we managed, which was fantastic.
So it's an amazing thing. I also love that I my experience with this was like, because I got an out of office from Ross, and it was a very gentle, Ross is packing your Kickstarter for you. Please, that stuff you want, he's doing it, along with everybody else. So it's like, oh, that's really cool.
But the items you shipped were some of the things we were chatting with Cesar about. It was Tinderblocks, Kitten, and some Dice Hospital Community Care. Is that right?
Yep, and Tungara was the last one. So last year we did 3. Well, this year we're fulfilling 3 Kickstarters. So the 3 Kickstarters we're doing, which is Dice Hospital Community Care, which is an expansion to the original Dice Hospital game. It's 3 expansions in one, which we think, I mean, like, obviously I'm going to say this because I work at the company, but we think it really improves the original Dice Hospital experience. You know, the Dice Hospital original game, I still think is fantastic. And the reason it's continued to sell well is because it's an excellent puzzle. But if you want to, like, a lot of the way the expansion is like Dice Hospital Plus. So if you want to add an extra little bit into the puzzle, there's 3 different ways you can do that, or you can throw them all in if you really want to have like a whole Dice Hospital day. It's a lot of expansions. You can we've developed it in a way you can put all 3 expansions in at the same time. But I would advise probably not doing that, because it's like it's a lot to get your head around. But individually, I think they work perfectly. I think it's just a very complex puzzle if you put all 3 in at the same time. But anyway, so like we fulfilled that. Tungaru was another Kickstarter that we had, and then Kitten and Tinderblocks, which are our small tin games. So we were doing 3. It's our first time doing that many Kickstarters, fulfilling them at the same time as well. So it was it's another reason why it was a lot of games and so hectic.
But it must have a nice sense of completion, like a nice full circle from because it's a very different level of frantic packing 6,000 games compared with the promote. Like when you've got a Kickstarter, that's a level of frantic I think people don't recognize, because you're forever having to make sure everybody's heard of it. You're checking on your comments, your social medias, your emails, and everything going on. And then to sort of bring that round to a bit of closure with a frantic packing of 6,000 games the moments there with the team, like, I
mean, there's certain points in a project where things feel real. So obviously when I'm not a designer or a developer, so I'm speaking on behalf of the rest of the team, but when you design and develop something, you know, that is, and until you get the, you know, you're doing the prototypes and everything, but when you get the first pre-production copy, that's when it's a real product, and it's changed from being some kind of work in progress to something that feels more final and like it's something that people are going to be able to play and receive. So that's like one of the first things is when you get the pre-production copies, then it begins to feel more real. Then obviously when you get it onto Kickstarter, you're like, now we're going to see if people want this thing, right? That we've spent 1 year, 2 years, 3 years developing and making. Is there an appetite for this game out there? And if you Kickstarter funds, there you go. Second hurdle. Now it's something that feels more tangible and real. And I suppose, the final step is when all of these copies, real retail and backer copies, start arriving at the warehouse, for us to be able to then go, we've done it. We've got this game and we're going to ship that out to everyone. Yeah. And then when you start seeing the photographs of people receiving them. So last week we got some games out early, and in the UK we were like, some people are going to be 60 copies. We decided to ship quicker, just as like a fun thing to do. And then, whilst we were doing fulfillment, whilst we were boxing all these games up, people were talking about it online, being like, I've just received these games. And for us, that's the best part of the whole thing. When you make games, ultimately, it's nice to fund and to keep operating as a business, but seeing people enjoying them, that's really what it's all about. That makes you feel better than anything else, is to see how much enjoyment there is in the community for something that you've been a part of making.
It's that present opening moment, that kind of I've contributed to this, and these guys that actually
fingers crossed, there's a lot of people that do have games that stay in shrink wrap for a little while, let's be honest. But, the idea that people will be enjoying this, in the winter, and this will be something that will be bringing a little bit of joy into their life right now. And there's people, for example, especially with our mini team games, because they're kind of new for us, that they play at a much younger age range. They're like dexterity games, fast, easy to learn, easy to play. And there's people saying talking about their children laughing, like the laughter coming from their children whilst playing these games. And that's just a really nice thing to hear, that there's a little bit, that kind of
it's that joy.
The joy, and the childlike enjoyment that as we get older and more cynical, we maybe lose a little bit. And the idea of like a child having these first experiences of games, and if we get to be a little part of that to encourage them to then, stick with the hobby for the remainder of their life, maybe that's really exciting. Because I remember my childhood memories of games, and I still have a fond memory of playing things when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's so cute. That's so adorable. Thinking about it, if my kids think about some of the games that we're playing in the same way I remember getting out Monopoly boards and Cluedo boards and stuff like that and playing those games, but they're maybe thinking about it with Kitten or Tinderblocks or Dice Hospital and that kind of stuff. That's adorable. Oh, yeah. It's
one of those things that until people get their games, it's still not quite real. And it's when people get their games that you really feel the connection to the community, which is why I love conventions so much, because you get to talk to people, right?
Yes.
People come by your stand and you're like, well, let me show you this.
Yeah.
Let me show you this real thing. And so when people post pictures and share pictures online saying, I have this thing, it is real, then, that's exciting to see, because that's how you make that connection in this particular point in time.
Yeah.
And it's that wonderful social interaction. I think that we're seeing and hearing this more and more, whether it's with kids and families, whether it's with adults playing together, adults playing with the games with the children. The fact is that this is the tactile, the real thing. It's the learning, and it's that social element. So it's learning to win well, and
with grace.
Yes, absolutely. And it's learning to lose and be a good loser, so that then that's
I'm an excellent loser, and that's two older sisters taught me at a young age how to lose time and time again.
Good for you for not playing the little brother card. It was I need to win.
It helped me not have to wash up for a good number of years.
Oh, I see.
Being like I'm too small to reach the sink. I'm 15 years old, but
oh no.
But my sisters definitely didn't pull any punches when it came to beating me at games. Let's put it that way.
Oh, excellent. So we're shipping and everything's landing, but that's not we don't stop now. Alleycat Games has still got loads of things bubbling. I've seen over on your live streams playtesting of Eternal Palace and things, iterations. It was quite interesting. I watched a couple in a row where you were just going over with some of the designers what's changed since we last played this and that kind of stuff. Caesar was telling us you've been doing more of that kind of online playtesting.
Yes. I mean, normally we would playtest face to face. So this year, like in many ways, you've got to adapt. Like, how can you continue to develop games without being able to get people in the same space? And we're very fortunate that things like Tabletop Simulator exist, because that allows us to put all of the assets for a game, even if it's in development, into little private, spaces where we can then invite people to, develop those games. So it means that in terms of connecting with our, designers and our development team and any playtesters, we're able to do that digitally, and we're able to, to put a lot of time and love into that process internationally, which is a positive. And it's as much as there are a lot of negatives about this year, there are also, when you're forced to adapt, you learn new and better ways of doing things. And I think this is certainly something we'll continue to do regardless of what the future holds, is have this play testing and development process digitally as well as physically, because we can get much broader feedback by doing it that way.
So how is it going with Eternal Palace right now?
So Eternal Palace is in a fantastic place. Basically, so what's been really interesting about, we've got 3 games that'll be hitting Kickstarter early next year, and they're all basically done. So you just can't put them all on at once, right? You've got to pick which is going to be the first one. So Eternal Palace is actually going to be our 3rd Kickstarter early next year. So we've reshuffled the schedule, basically. So it's going to be Tinner's Trail will be our first. And we can talk about these games in a little bit more detail in a sec. But Tinner's Trail will be the first, then it'll be Dice Theme Park, and then it'll be Eternal Palace. So it's one of those things that I would love it if we could just throw them all on right now, but that's not how it works. And so what the first thing for us was, we didn't want to launch any Kickstarters until we'd fulfilled the Kickstarters that we had. So we can say, look, we've promised you this thing and you have this thing now. So you can see, this will be Alley Cat Games or Alley Cat Games, and the projects we've been connected to. It's our 14th Kickstarters that we've completed. So, it's not our first rodeo. We've done this many times before, either games that we've collaborated on, as Kickstarter advisors, or our own that we've done via Kickstarter. We know what we're doing, but part of that is trust, right? And trusting that you pre-order, you back something, and then you get to see the physical product. And we're not going to be, we wanted to show that we weren't going to be talking about our next games or putting them on Kickstarter until we'd shown that we completed it. 2020 has been a very complicated year in terms of making that happen, because COVID has really delayed a number of our projects, and those games should have been really getting to backers in the summer, but that's not happened because factories were closed and shipping was slowed down, and everything's hit this huge backlog internationally, and it's pushed it towards the end of the year, which meant we've had to push all of our Kickstarters that were going to start launching at the end of this year to next year because of that. We could have launched them early, but we wanted to ensure that we got this portion out of the way first.
So Tinner's Trail is going to be the next one is that right?
Correct. So Tinner's Trail. Go on. I
was going to say that's got Martin Wallace's name on the front of the box there.
It does. So originally, this game was released in 2008. So what we've done is we're calling it a remaster, because it's not just a new lick of paint. It is a redevelopment of the original game. So what that means is, originally the game was only 3 to 4 players, which is an unusual player count to see these days. But in that era, there were games that were a bit more niche in that way, and we want to broaden it out. So what we've done is we've increased the player count to 1 to 5 players. So there's a bespoke solo mode, and also we've redeveloped it to have a broader player count. We're including 2 whole new expansions, and something that's really interesting from a development perspective is people who have played it with the expansions now say they wouldn't want to play it without, which is
that's cool.
So you can still play the game without them, of course, but a lot of people are saying that the expansions feel like a really great addition to it. So
that's a really good accolade, especially as you've got quite a hardcore following of I really liked how this played.
So Tinner's Trail, for people who aren't aware of that game, it's a game about Cornish mining in the olden days. So you're basically owning and operating mines so if you're not from England, Cornwall's on the south coast, and it had a big mining industry, and so you're owning and operating those mines in that region of the country, and so part of that is you're going to be like auctioning for mines. You're going to be buying mines, and being in that era, that there's we're talking like industrial revolutionary era, there's water in the mines, so like you're gonna have to pump water out of the mines as you're mining them. These are things that were the issue, and so there's a market where you can buy stocks and like buy and sell stocks, and you can sell what you've mined as well, depending on like demand. You get different values for it. So there's a couple of different things that you can combine. The way we've changed the original game, like how it was set up, it included a roll of the dice, which is a little bit random. And one thing that's kind of changed in the last 10 years is people like to have a bit more agency and control over what they do in games. And I would never say random is bad by any stretch of the imagination. Random can be great, but it's nice to have an element of random, but with your own control over it. So one of the ways that works is the way the game starts is you add a series of face down mines onto the board, right? So you don't know exactly what's in the mine until you go check it out, basically survey it. And part of the game is you're auctioning on these mines, and everyone starts with their own cards, their own secret cards, and they can use that to take a peek at a mine to see what's there. But if they choose to do that, they will be improving that mine in a public way. So whoever decides to bid on that, the person who takes the peek you'll know now they're going to be reducing the water amount in the mine, for example, which makes it a more profitable mine. Or they may have the ability to extract more copper from the mine. That's public information. So people now know, well, this mine's going to be a little bit better, but they don't actually know what's there. And then there's a standard auction thing, people bidding and raising it. And the mine gets revealed when you are doing the auction. It's not secret at that point. But it's kind of like to take a peek at it. You use a card to be able to do so you're not blind starting an auction. People can see what's going on, and that's one of the ways it changed from the original, because the original was you kind of rolled a dice and then that was the way the game got set up. This way is you've got a bit more control over it. Nice. So like basically the auctions have these dual card mechanics that it's worth noting that I don't want to throw shade on the original, but in terms of the visual production value of the latest one, I think it's safe to say that in the last 10 years, board game art and graphic design has really massively elevated. Part of that might be down to Kickstarter and a lot of things, but I think, one thing we're particularly proud of is how pretty the game is. So
I mean, the cover looks lovely.
Yes. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So
it's really nice.
Ossi Heikkilä, a wonderful Finnish illustrator, and it evokes the era really nicely, I think. And what's nice to when you work at a publisher is you're part of all of these conversations about how you want the cover of the game to look. So the whole way that the chap's holding a pasty, a Cornish pasty, that he's just purchased from the two ladies behind him. And then you can see the mine down the hill in the train. We talked about the flow of the image and how we wanted the image to flow. Anyway, that's me just nerding out.
It's also lovely attention to traditional Cornish kit as well with that, which is amazing. And the original mine style, like the mechanism to lift and lower and pump things out as well. It's very cool.
Exactly. So there's things like that which are obviously really exciting. But what we liked about it, and we wanted to evoke more of the feel of the of that era and that time. So just to segue nicely, is another way that is the case is so the game includes expansions. There's 2 expansions. One includes emigration. So it used to be the skilled miners of the region would go and work elsewhere because they, Cornish and people who worked in mines in England were specialists in doing that, and they would go and use those skills elsewhere to open mines in other regions. So that's part of it. There's emigration thing, and there's also an arsenic expansion.
Okay.
so that's what they did. They mined arsenic, right? Arsenic's a very dangerous substance.
Yeah, a little bit.
So part of the reality of that is people did die mining. And that's part of the expansion is there's a genuine risk reward, and it's not it's not like a playful, like, oh, haha, this is, this is a fun element of this. Is the real reality of mining in that era. Is people lost their lives mining this. And so if you're running the business with mining arsenic, it's a highly profitable thing to mine, but there's real world casualty towards mining that substance. That's part of one of the expansions. It's something to consider, and it's very thematic to the era. And so, like, when we talk about bringing in more theme to the game, it's less abstract when you're thinking about things in terms of you have a particular workforce, and are you going to risk your workforce in trying to mine this highly profitable, substance, which everyone was like, oh, everyone loved arsenic in those days. But there's a lot of things that we loved mining in those days, which we now realize is probably less great to mine.
Yeah. So this is really interesting because they've actually discovered, or they think they've discovered, a honking great big seam of lithium running from Redruth in Cornwall out to the Channel Islands, I think. So we're looking at like a 21st century version of this at some point, maybe. This is the second Cornish boom of, well, now we need electric cars.
It's a rich piece of land. It's got a lot of mining potential and pasty manufacturing.
Yes, do you like Cornish pasties?
There's Cornish pasties, and there's Ginster's factory as well.
Wow.
Ginster's, that's also in Cornwall.
She's in Cornwall. That's pleasing. Oh, okay.
It's a pasty hub of the UK.
Yes,
fantastic.
It is. They're very particular, very exact about what makes a Cornish pasty. Exactly.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
There are rules, and you can't go. Yeah. Anyway, but it looks gorgeous.
I feel that we should get tweeds and Cornish pasties and come and sit and play this at the expo with you. I think that would be marvellous.
I mean, if we could somehow get pasties on the stand for UKGE, I would eat pasties all day long. I'd be like, we've got a pasty shop, and you can also
you
play this game.
can't probably sell them, but you could probably
not. I mean, if I can eat them, we've got the pasty smell because I'm just eating pasties all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. The smell of sunshine and pasties is going to be amazing.
Oh gosh, hungry now. Can we stop talking about pasties, please, before my stomach rumbles on stream? No, it's cool. I like that it's because people we say 2008 as if it was like last week, but it was actually 12 years ago.
It was an amount of time. It was an amount of time.
Yeah, and to kind of think how different games and how better the industry has got at making and designing and refining games since then. It's not that it wasn't great back in 2008, but now it's a little bit like considering films. Like, films were great in 2008, but now we've got all this extra stuff we can do with films, so let's go back and just revisit and kind of have a look over it.
I think, like anything, like we're talking about iteration, right? So if you talk about design, each year new lessons are learned, and the thing, people generally speaking don't design in a bubble. They are aware of the games that are getting released, and ideas merge and blend between designers, and that's part of how game design works and game development works. And people can say there's these elements, you may recognize these elements from these designs, and you can say, like, I'm excited to bring in these new elements that I've experienced from games over the last 10 years into refreshing a design, which may, there's games that came out in 2008 which were genre pioneers at the time, but since then, a bunch of other games that have come out that have pushed the envelope a little bit, because game design never stops. It only continues to improve and develop, and part of that might be through more complexity, but part of that might be like, how can we streamline these games with these core ideas? How can we reduce them to a jus? This really tasty sauce that we can drizzle over these components that'll get people excited to play it.
So, do you have like an idea, a ballpark of when that's going to be up on Kickstarter, or is it?
So Tinner's Trail is going to be in January. So that's
January. All right, straight up January. Keep your eyes peeled.
Straight up January. So I highly recommend. Always, if you love getting emails, who doesn't like getting more emails? Sign up to our newsletter. Let's be honest, I can't get enough of those emails. So Alley Cat Games, I'm being facetious, but alleycatgames.com. If you want to sign up to our newsletter, and that's a good way of staying up to date with all of our stuff. If you go onto Alley Cat Games, it has all of our social media links. So, you can follow us on Twitter. You can get involved in our Facebook. We also have a Discord group for those who are so inclined. That's one of the things that Virtually Expo, encouraged us to do, was get a Discord, start building a community so you can have those more real-time conversations and bring people together who enjoy your games so they can chat. So, also we share things in our Discord. And one of my own personal plans for the Discord is for games that have solo to post my scores of solo and be like, well, see if you can beat my score. I mean, I'm very, very confident you will be able to beat my scores. But it's just like another way to be like, hey, look, like enjoy being part of a community, and you can all have this little high score board of solo plays, and then talk tips and tricks and stuff like that. So that's something that I'm excited to do in the new year. I've not started it yet, but that's a thing that I'm looking to do.
Awesome.
But yeah, so yeah, January.
Tinner's Trail.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tinner's Trail.
What's after Tinner's Trail? What's the next thing that's gonna look forward to at Alley Cat?
So the next Kickstarter, which is likely to be in February. So there's a quick like explosion of games at the start of the year as far as we're concerned. Is Dice Theme Park. So Dice Theme Park, we say it's like set in the same universe as Dice Hospital. So people leave the Dice Hospital after being successfully treated with a spring in their step, and they get handed a flyer for this new theme park that's opened and go straight over. And then we say they go on too many rides and feel a bit sick, so they go back to the hospital again afterwards. But that's just my own imagining of the theme. But Dice Theme Park, you're running your own theme park, and you are adding rides, and you are encouraging, people who visit to enjoy all of these different rides. And it has this really interesting cascade mechanic where a dice will start on a particular value, and as it goes on a ride, that value will reduce, and they can move around the park, going on different rides and stuff like that. And it's all about them getting the most enjoyment they can out of your park before they leave. So you designing a park that matches them up in a way to get them going through as many rides as possible to have a fun experience. And that's kind of like, if anyone's played Dice Hospital, that's a little bit more complex than Dice Hospital, but it's still at a level where if you're new to board games and you're new to the hobby, you should be able to get into it quite nicely. I mean, I've personally played a lot of board games, but I played it for the first time live on an Alley Cat stream, and I didn't drown in the complexity of it. I just kind of,
that's good.
I was able to pick it up and play it as we went, because I think the iconography on the tiles is clear, and it shows you how each one works. So you can kind of, I like games where you can learn how to play them incrementally as you play. You don't have to. Absolutely. You don't have to front. So what I mean by that is some games ask you to learn a lot before you start. Yeah. And some games say, well, we'll learn this kind of general mechanics, but then the tiles will introduce slightly new elements as you reveal them, so you can learn like a little bit at a time as you go. And so I like games like that because they kind of ease you into the puzzle as you play. And that's certainly true of Dice Theme Park.
Oh, so that's coming February. Is it something that, I think you said, but we don't need to know how to play Dice Hospital to get stuck in with Dice Theme Park or anything like that?
The reason why we say it's like thematically in the same world, because in Dice Hospital, for those who haven't played it, the dice are your patients, and you are changing the dice values to raise those values to make them better, basically, and discharge from the hospital. With Dice Theme Park, the dice are the people who are going to the theme park. So again, it has like a similar idea that these dice are the people who are within this structure, within this space. But the difference is, in this case, the people, it's their like energy and enjoyment, and as they travel around the theme park, they are expending that energy and enjoyment to be like, I'm fully satisfied. I've had a great old time in this in this theme park, and I'm going to go home now. So that's kind of like the similarity there. Dice are people.
Dice are people. And that has a solo player variant as well, as you can see. It's 1 to 4 players and 75 to 90 minutes. Is making sure they've got a solo version something that's kind of important with, because Tinner's Trail has also got one as well.
So we're really lucky to have a developer on our team called David Digby, who is really good at creating solo modes. So part of that is just having expertise within the team. So when I said there's a core team of 4 of us, we work very closely with a bunch of other people. And one of our key developers is a guy called David Digby, really talented guy. And we've been lucky that, he's got his head screwed on when it comes to solo stuff. And understanding that as much as we might always want to play games with other people, it's really nice to have a strong solo mode within the box, which means that games that you own can be played with a wider variety of player counts. Building in a solo mode that's a genuine solo mode and not just like an afterthought, but part of the full development cycle, means that people will be able to enjoy our games regardless of the varying player count at their table. It might be that they would think, well, how about I play it on my own first to learn it? So when my friends come round, I can really teach them it because I'll have played it already, rather than having to learn it with a group. You might just be like, I'll just play a little solo game. That's certainly, I think, a really interesting way to learn how to play some.
It lets you try strategies as well.
Yeah, I'll play a couple of rounds solo. If you're not into solo, that's a really good way to learn. If you do like solo, then just go ahead and play it solo. Right, just go for it. Yeah.
It reminds me in its artwork, Dice Theme Park, of remember the computer game like Theme Park, where you used to build. It's got that real feel to it.
It's no secret that the Alley Cat games are heavily inspired with Dice Hospital, with Theme Hospital, and in Dice Theme Park as well, with all of the like Railroad Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon, not Railroad Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon, and all of the those kinds of games of that era, which were. There was like a 90s era where it was very popular to be like, I'm going to micromanage this business. And that was just like, people loved that. I certainly really enjoyed them. So that theme park kind of feel is intentional. Those were things that us as a team, we enjoyed. And you take inspiration from things like that.
Yeah. So that one, straight after January, in February on Kickstarter again. Wow. Are you now going to tell us there's a March Kickstarter as well?
We have a little break.
Okay.
But it is in April that we'll be doing our next Kickstarter, which is going to be Eternal Palace, which is a game about restoring a palace that's fallen into disrepair. And personally, like out of the 3 upcoming ones, I think this actually might be my favorite of the 3. It's certainly the one that I've played the most, though, because I'm not part of the development team. I'm kind of like a little bit more distant from the projects, and I get to enjoy watching them change. But I've played Eternal Palace a lot, and I really like this one in particular. And the reason why I like it again is because it's kind of like a game where dice are your workers. So there's like a common thread between our games where like dice orientated quite often. But it always feels like you have choices. And I think that's sometimes with worker placement games, you can feel a little bit like, oh, someone beat you there, so you can't do that this turn. Or someone beat me here and I can't do that turn. There's certainly things you have to factor in with Eternal Palace. Making sure there's like a resource that you have to spend if you visit a location after so much to fish. But with it feels like there's a lot of flexibility on the board, and there's always options you can have. There's always something you can do. You're never gonna have a turn where you can do nothing in Eternal Palace, and that's part of what we wanted to develop into that game, is the idea that although it's gonna feel like a really whoever plays best is gonna win. The randomization is not really there, but you never feel shut out of the game. You always feel like you're in it. And the scores from playtesting are really tight, like at the end of the game. So really it comes down to crucial decisions at particular points in time might give you a 1-point lead, a 2-point lead at the end of the game. And that's like, so it always feels like you're in the mix and you're like, and you might be able to win at the end. Eternal Palace as well. So you're restoring this, this palace and these grounds that fall into disrepair. But it also has this 3D element to the game, which is where you are getting painting pieces to reflect the work that you've done, and you'll have an easel and you'll be layering up these painting pieces to create this actual painting that reflects the work that you've done on the palace during the game, which is really nice, just visual representation of what you've done.
It's a really good achievement mechanic, isn't it? It's like you've not just got the thing. Here it is. Here's how it looks, and it's beautiful.
And there's like little monuments. These little, if you get the deluxe version, at least there's these these 3D monuments that you'll be the caretaker of based on the work that you've put into them and stuff like that. So there's a lot of very cute physical presence kind of elements to that game. And again, like I think what I'm really happy with in terms of these upcoming games as well is not just the box art, but the art inside the box is really fantastic. And I feel like as a company, we're leveling up in terms of how our games look and how they feel. Just because we've been around a good few years now, and we're learning as we go, like everyone is, and we're finding new ways to improve everything we do.
Yeah, it's cool. I like the art for when you were mentioning there that you have an easel and stuff, and you can see it on the cover of the box. Is that lovely, like garden scene, the palaces in the distance, and the lady painting the pattern. It's a really nice artwork. It's beautiful. So that's like the first quarter of the year.
Tell me about it.
We're already up to April. That's amazing. So what?
I mean, there's actually loads of other games we're releasing next year, but I'm not going to bother going into that because I think that's probably enough for now. But that we like, I'll just say the names. We've got Paper Dungeons, which is a roll and write game, which is kind of an RPG where you are exploring this dungeon on this little grid. We're really excited about that. We've got Dice Hospital Emergency Roll, which is a roll and write game that's Dice Hospital orientated, which will be part of the Dice Theme Park Kickstarter. We've got a game called Milkshake.
Emergency Roll there.
Yeah, we've got Welcome to Dino World, a micro version of that, which we're planning to launch next year. Pier 18, which is an 18-card game about walking along a seaside pier, which is another game that will be coming out. Milkshake, we've got, and two games that we've not announced the names of yet. They're all like stuff that may be kind of like 2021 releases, or certainly we'll be talking about them next year. But let's slow it down for a second and just focus on what's on the horizon, right?
Yeah, that definitely sounds like you need to sign up to your newsletter straight away.
Yeah, definitely.
Make sure you have all the info.
There's some stuff to be kept apprised of. That's for sure.
Do you get yourself like when you see these things coming in, like, quick, oh no, I can't.
Yeah, I'm always like, when can we talk about it? As community manager, I'm just like, when can we talk about it? It looks really exciting, but when can we talk about it? Because I want to tell people.
Yeah. When can I tell them? When can I tell them? Oh,
exactly.
That's cool. That's cool.
And and that's always great when you tell people about a new game, and obviously people are like, this looks really exciting.
This looks really good.
But it's easy as a publisher, because you work on games for a number of years, to be super excited about what's coming out next year, and you're like, but we've got a box and ship and get all of these games to everyone this year. So that's that's why when we talk about stages of things in terms of the publisher's perspective about what makes it feel real, the first step is announcing something and like, this is what we're working on right now, and we can tell you about it because we know it's going to happen. But for me, the most exciting part is always people getting to play. It's all great being excited about things coming up in the future, and I love having things to look forward to, but it's also great to be like, I now have this thing and I can get to enjoy it right this second. It's in my house.
It's cool. I saw on the Alley Cat Games, you've got a section for how to play some stuff remotely as well. So really helping folks still get to play.
So around about like March or April, we created a remote play section on our website, which is, we thought in 2020, it's important to give people new ways to play their games. So some of that is like, playing it over Zoom or playing it with Skype, things like that, from distance. And some of them, you only need one copy of the game to play, and we provide you with game sheets. Some of them, you might all need a copy of the game to play, but it goes into information on that on our website. So just go to alleycatgames.com, and then in the middle of the menu bar at the top of the screen, it says remote play. Just click on that and it'll give you some helps and hints. And not just that, it also gives you links to the digital versions of our games where they are, available on Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia. At the bottom of that page, it's like you can play Cat Cafe or Dice Hospital or Chocolate Factory or Tungaru in these locations.
Oh, excellent. Nice. So there's no stopping playing some Alley Cat games. No stopping.
There's no excuses, people. There's no excuses whatsoever.
And then you join the Discord and you tell everybody how well you did.
There you go. You say, like, look at me, I'm really good. Or if you're me, you go, look at me. Didn't do great, but hope that encourages you
I've
to
really
play
had
the
a
game
good
as well.
time.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Ross. I'm really excited. January is great, but personally, I'm looking forward to February now.
Dice Theme Park's going to be last. Like I say, we've got 3 games that are basically ready to launch, but we have to stagger that because that's just we can't do everything at once.
Yeah.
So there's lots to be excited about in the new year for a variety of reasons external to Alicat as well. So
Yes.
I think 2021 is going to be a good year all around.
It is. And it's been wonderful hearing about the process and just the plans and he's seeing how enthusiastic you are about everything that's coming up is a delight. Folks can find more information. We've put it down there on alicatgames.com, and then there's some Facebook and some Twitter, and then the really lovely Twitch and Facebook live streams playing some games and just getting involved. Like I've seen some of the Eternal Palace playthroughs and testing there, and Dino Saws eating generators and Dino World and that kind of stuff. It's really lovely streams.
So on Thursdays, we won't be streaming this week on Thursday, but generally speaking on Thursdays at 2:00 on the Alicat Games Twitch we stream, and that's via Facebook as well. So if you liked us on Facebook, then you can certainly follow us or twitch.tv/Alicat Games.
Yeah.
But it's a way that we show games that are already out, but we also show games that are in development. So that's a way that we've been showing during conventions, and before that, we showed Dice Theme Park on a live stream. We've showed Eternal Palace on a live stream, and we'll be showing Tinner's Trail on live streams in December. So if you're curious about our upcoming games, hang out in our live streams. You'll get to see what they're like in advance of the Kickstarters, and you can go, okay, this was maybe not for me, or this one looks cool, maybe I'd be into that, and and see what you feel from there.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. Before we run away, I know you've got your Alicat Games hat on, but if we could just pretend for a moment you've got your More Games Please hat on, because I know you're doing some fundraising now till the end of the year with your stream for you just tell us quickly.
Okay, well I'll put a little link in chat. Can I post this in chat?
You should be able to. Yeah, I was about to do it, but yeah, you did.
So until the end of the year, I work for Alicat, but that's only part of what I do. Until the end of the year, I am fundraising for Shelter, which is a UK homeless and housing charity. And so what I'll be doing until the very end of the year via my own streams, which is twitch.tv/More Games PLS. I'll type that into the chat in a minute. It's already been posted. Thank you very much. I'm going to be raising money for that charity. So for me, I wanted to do something to give back at the end of the year. I know it's been a very difficult year for all of us, but the impact of furloughs and job losses and things like that has meant some people have lost their employment, and they might be in trouble with their housing at present. So Shelter provide legal advice, guidance, and also help get people rehoused and get people into housing. They've been around a really long time, but I wanted to raise money for that cause this winter. So that's what I'm doing until the end of the year. So every single one of my streams from next week onwards, I'm going to be giving away games. So, I've spoken to publishers around the world. So it'll be international giveaways. So whatever region you're in, you'll be able to participate in those giveaways and win games. And the idea behind that is, one, to make it like a season of giving, to charity and to the community, but also to encourage people to donate if they're able. No expectation. I'm not saying you need to give to participate in the giveaways. Just being there is support in itself. But certainly something that I want to encourage is that feeling of generosity in the community and beyond the community.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm doing it. Yeah.
There we go. So check out a little bit of that if you've got some time. Definitely sign up for the Alicat Games newsletter to find out when in January, February.
Yeah. It'll be towards the tail end of the January, but yeah, certainly sign up to the newsletter, because we'll be putting it out there. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah. And it's been, as always, a pleasure finding out about Alicat and yourself, Ross. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, if you if you folks at home want to get involved with the Twitch stream, if you know your friendly local game store or designer you want us to have a chat with, let us know. Let them know. You can find us on all the normal places you would expect to have. And we will be back next week with a little bit more exciting things and events. I checked the dates. Next week will be 6 months out from 2021's event.
That's 4th of June to the 6th of June. Come on the physical show. Come on Real World Expo.
Yeah. But that's all we have time for today. We'll see you next week, folks. Thanks very much.